Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you attending this important meeting and training on student affairs at Anytime University. During this training section, we will discuss the history of student affairs and how it has become more important throughout the years for students, faculty, and staff. This topic expands a wide spectrum of areas, and we will discuss three important constitutional amendments that pertain to student affairs. These amendments are the First, Second, and Fifth Amendments. We will also look at the importance of diversity and discrimination and what that means for student affairs. Today, we will be discussing information from the book Making Change Happen in Student Affairs Changes and Strategies. The authors noted several documents that contained important information on student affairs, but two of them stood out as premier documents for shaping student affairs services at today's colleges and universities. To help provide context to our training, we will discuss information from three pertinent documents. The Student Personnel Point of View, known as SPPV, the National Association of Student Personnel Administration, known as NASPA, and CAS Statements of Shared Ethical Principles. For staff and administrators in student affairs, it is extremely important for us to properly support the university, the student, faculty, staff, and other constituents. To understand student affairs, we will look at the history of student affairs in higher education for our nation. In the early 1920s, the Society took interest in the activities of colleges and universities based on the workings going on at Northeastern University during Walter D. Scott and L.B. Hawkins' tenure. It has been noted that Walter D. Scott explained during that time the primary purpose of college training goes beyond imparting a certain amount of factual knowledge to producing changes in the behavior and thinking of students. Every hour of the week, within class and without, should contribute to this underlying purpose. In January 1925, higher education officials participated in a survey about Scott and Hopkins' approach. The survey results indicated interest in Scott and Hopkins' approach, but there was little knowledge about it. From these results, the American Council of Education took on gaining more understanding of these issues, such as record keeping, achievement testing, personality measurement, occupational informational needs, and personal development of students. Several organizations have looked at student affairs issues between 1925 and 1985. In 1985, Karen Coulter synthesized 5 ethical principles that has been adopted by many professional organizations and provides the foundation for their statements of ethical responsibilities for members. Between 1925 and 1985, Student Personnel Point of View organization released their 1937 publication that outlined their 2 principles for the professional work of student affairs. They noted, first, the need to focus on the growth and development of the whole student, and second, the need to cooperate and coordinate efforts to focus the individual student's total characteristics and experiences rather than with separate and distinct aspects of his personality or performance. They also explained that administrations will need to take leadership of cooperative enterprises in modern college campuses to effectively implement these 2 principles. In an interview with Ryan Labarney, the Vice President of Student Affairs, He reiterated the importance of institutions having a strong team of administrators to guide the institution efforts in serving students. Another important document is the CAS Statement of Shared Ethical Principles published by the Council for the Advancement of Standards in Higher Education. CAS has served for the past 25 years as an important voice for quality assurance and declaration of standards in higher education institutions. The CAS standards promote the use of professional standards for the development, assessment, and improvement of quality student learning and college programs and services. CAS standards are similar to Ketcher's synthesized 5 ethical principles released in 1985. CAS standards are autonomy, to take responsibility for our actions by supporting and empowering individuals and groups' freedom of choice; non-maleficence, to pledge to do no harm; beneficent, to engage in unselfish, philanthropic attitudes that promote goodness and contribute to the health and welfare of others; justice, to actively promote human dignity, endorse equality and fairness for all constituents; fidelity, to be faithful to an obligation, trust, or duty; veracity, to seek and convey the truth in our words and actions; and affiliation, to actively promote connected relationships among all people and foster community. All of these aspects are instrumental and pertinent to student affairs at any time university. As a student affairs staff member, it is important for you to understand these key publications and standards, but it is more important for you to understand the laws or regulations governing our actions. Let's take a look at how the laws of the U.S. Constitution affects the work done at colleges today. Higher education institutions are required, like all other entities, to abide by the rule of law. Anytime university takes guidance from federal laws in the Constitution and state regulations on the proper ways to engage our students when dealing with student issues and how to govern faculty and staff around student affairs. The U.S. Constitution was written to protect the rights of U.S. citizens, including the right of students. 3 key amendments that protect student rights are the First, Second, and Fifth Amendments. The U.S. Constitution outlines what government cannot do in its interactions with U.S. citizens and establishes rules and procedures associated with student conduct and student freedom of expression. As a public institution, Anytime University is limited in the restrictions that we can place on our students, especially as it pertains to freedom of speech and procedural due process. The First Amendment states Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its free exercise. It protects the freedom of speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government for a redress or grievance. The First Amendment, in essence, protects a student's freedom of expression, freedom of association, and their right to organize and peaceably assemble. It also protects their freedom of expression and freedom of religion with the separation of church and state. It is important to note that the First Amendment creates a risk for public institutions who implement a code of conduct policy that regulates speech. Student affairs staff's publications and Anytime official should never be found restricting our students' speech based on content. Also, let's look at the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment obligates the institution to provide due process of law in the student conduct setting for the evaluation of an employee performance. Case law has defined due process as a twofold fundamental requirement. First, we must provide notice of allegation about a violation of regulation. And second, we must provide the accused with a hearing as an opportunity to respond to the allegation. With Anytime University being a public institution, we go far beyond just giving a notice or hearing to allow multiple appeals or review. Private institutions, however, are not bound to do this, and they have more latitude when dealing with such issues. The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects citizens' right to bear arms, or simply put, it is a citizen's right to own a gun or firearm. With recent school shootings, schools have been thrown into the spotlight on this issue, and this has caused a greater awareness and concern for higher education institutions. How do we address this? We work within the bounds of the law and understand that college shootings may change the legislative interest in allowing guns on campus and affect future judicial decisions. Courts have recognized that Second Amendment rights can be reasonably restricted, and banning guns from schools have been allowed through court decisions. The court is aware that at the beginning of the academic year, many incoming students have not yet reached the age of maturity or 18 years old. Therefore, they are considered minors and members of a protected class. Understanding the vulnerability of minors has afforded universities the right to restrict firearms to protect youth participating in summer camps and programs or touring the campus as prospective students. There are several avenues in which government regulations influence or affect the work of student affairs administrators. Some regulations that have a direct impact on society include higher education, and other regulations are designed to impact the specific applications of colleges and universities. For example, copyright laws, federal laws that pertain to federal financial aid, and a host of other laws that are linked to federal financial aid that we will cover in future trainings, such as drug-free laws, the rights of human subjects, environmental laws, and missing student notification requirements. One of the most important federal regulations for student affairs is the Family Educational Rights and Protection Act, or FERPA. FERPA is an important regulation written to protect the privacy of students by giving only the student the right of disclosure of their educational records. Another regulation extremely important to student affairs is Title IX, that also deals with diversity and discrimination against the different sexes. Title IX is the Educational Amendment of 1972 enforced by the Office of Civil Rights. This law obligates colleges and universities to provide opportunity to either gender underrepresented in a particular activity. Title IX mostly deals with intercollegiate athletics, but it also applies to extracurricular programs and academic programs. Anytime University has Title IX laws on our website, in the school's manuals and handbooks, and posted in pertinent areas in the athletic department. We believe knowledge is power, and keeping these laws prominently displayed helps employees to remember this important law when dealing with our students. A few additional key regulations that impact student affairs pertaining to discrimination and diversity are the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, CVES, is a web-based service designed to track and monitor students, our exchange visitors, and their dependents who are approved to participate in the U.S. education system. The Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act, signed into law by President Obama in 2013, gives institutions of higher education substantial responsibility and obligation to report incidents of domestic violence, dated violence, and stalking. The Rehabilitation Act, Section 504, is one of the first civil rights laws passed to protect the rights of citizens with disabilities. The law established that any organization that receives federal aid must use affirmative action when employing any person who is handicapped. The law paved the way for the more comprehensive and far-reaching Americans with Disabilities Act that now requires organizations to be ADA compliant in policies, procedures, and publications. Anytime university administrators have approved for the student body population to participate in the National Domestic Violence Month during October 2018. Faculty, staff, and students will participate by wearing ribbons or purple attire and will distribute pertinent information on this issue. Also, the Director of Disability Services will hold meetings with the administration to discuss changes or newly passed laws pertaining to students with disabilities. We are all doing these steps to help prevent any issues and strengthen the efforts of Anytime University to avoid problems with discrimination of diversity on our campuses. When reflecting on the importance of student affairs, it's best to hear how the students feel about the services that we provide. Some UNCG students were interviewed in November 2013, and they highlighted the important services provided by student affairs. Students appreciate services that include advocating for students, student connections, a safety net function for students so they will not fall through the cracks, a transitional tool for students to help them find their independence, and a lot more. Services provided by student affairs are important to the student experience at higher education institutions. One of the most important components of student affairs is the understanding of what is diversity. For a student affairs staff, diversity means being sensitive to differences and accustomed to supporting students from underrepresented groups. So please be aware that as student affairs staff members, the university expects you to treat all students in a fair, honest, and courteous manner. We ask that you always look to build relationships with students and the community while being just in all of your decisions. Also, we believe and expect for you to be faithful and responsible for your actions by supporting and empowering our individual students and various groups with their freedom of choice. I thank you for this time and for you participating in our training session. If you have any questions, please note the information on our final slide. Thank you and have a great afternoon.